Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to have a special show with Rajiv. Here, both of us are here. We're sitting in one place, nice little place. And how do you like it?
Homecoming.
Homecoming, yeah, homecoming for both of us for many reasons. And we've come for a special event, but that we'll talk about it later. But what we're going to talk today is something different. Something's happening in our neighborhood. And the question we're going to ask each other is our neighborhood imploding?
I feel it's well on its path to conclusion. And we have to be very careful because it's always there when this kind of neighborhood implodes, they create problems, internal problems.
Internal problems in India. Yeah. Right.
The number two, the Western implosion, nuclear weapons. The other two big things. Even if the northern one is imploding, his nuclear weapons are safe. We don't have that kind of issue that we have in the Western.
Yeah. I go with you completely. Now, for those of you who would be thinking, what are these two people speaking of? It's this. Three things we're going to discuss. First, Pakistan. What's happened in Pakistan today? Ex-army chief, a very respected army chief, General Jahangir Karamat, comes out in the open, and he addresses a press conference. And he says, look, I wrote a letter to General Asim Munir. I didn't get a reply. And much later, when I went and met him and we were called, met him and all that, I told him what's happening. He says nothing is happening. And he says you don't know what's happening in the army because things are new and all that. So an anguished Jahangir Karamat, both of us heard, saying that, look, there's a distance happening between Pakistan people and the army. And that's not good for the nation. That's what he says in public. And this came out in X, a clip of 2 minutes, 3 minutes we saw. And we said, okay, what do we do with it? But that's a different story. But that is now down from Twitter. It's been taken out. But then what he has spoken is spoken. So there is an issue there in Pakistan. And you have to connect all this up with Balochistan, where the situation is not good, where the Pak army is not being seen well, and not many people are, happy about the way Pak army is going about doing its things. That's the first story. Second, China. Both of us discussed the two sessions earlier with you. And today we get the news that He Widong, who's the number 2 CMC chairman or the vice chairman, number two out of the two, Zhang Yuxia and He Widong has been arrested. This rumor came out about a week back, but now it's all over the countryside. It's in the open that he's been arrested. He was going from somewhere to his office and he was arrested. It's a major thing. Considering the fact that last October, another admiral who was part of the CMC was also taken out of the equation. No one knows where he is. So the CMC, which had 7 members, with Xi Jinping at the top, right? 2 are gone, not there. So it's a lame duck. Is it a lame duck CMC or something's happening? Plus the fact, I'm sure Rajiv will tell what's happening in the Politburo standing. So there is a political issue there. And second, both of us saw a tweet out which said China is lending money to people at the lowest rates. Oh, bhai, kharid lo, kuch bhi kharid lo. That's the attitude. And I read something else somewhere that, cars are being sold at loss. So most of these car companies are at loss. Is the next bubble, BYD bubble, right? So BYD is now being termed by your destruction. So that's what it is. That's what everyone says. So is this car bubble, EV bubble on? So that something major is happening in China. Might not happen, might happen, but I think the indications are somewhere there. And third, of course, Bangladesh. ये 2 बड़े implosion हो रहे हैं, तो एक छोटा implosion भी है. So after the DNI from USA came, which is Tulsi Gabbard, She spoke what she had to speak. So, will Yunus leave Bangladesh in monarchy and go back to France? Big question, another implosion. So, we'll take each of these. Rajiv, where do you want to start?
So we'll start from the west,
Yeah.
go clockwise.
गड़ी जिस तरीके से जाता है वहीं जाएंगे. Yeah.
West तो पता ही है. We know what happened with the train Jafar Express, and immediately after that was the attack on their convoy, where almost about, they claim 5, but they claims
It's more.
90, but it is more if you see the 8-vehicle convoy, the way it was destroyed. And there is no response which they have been able to bring. And all their grandstanding on the Jafar Express came to a naught, because the people themselves openly said that nobody came to rescue them. They were freed by these BLA people, that they have nothing to do with the women, children, the old people, and they have all been left. And most of the 214 who they claim to have executed were either army people or working for the army or ISI, the counter-terrorism. And well, in the parliament में तो उसने openly कह दिए हैं कि भाई साहब KP and Balochistan is out. So it is not कि west में क्यों मैंने लिया, he also provides west में the implosion is not a question of if, it is when. And that is where the biggest threat to us lies on two issues. They do have a lot of their underground and overground workers within India. So they can create a lot of problems for us. Let us be very clear about that they will create internal issues. They've always tried to externalize, learning from their big brother to the north. Bigger problem than that is the security of the nuclear. If it implodes, goes into the hands of any of these militant groups, it is not just a threat for India, it's a global threat. It's not for nothing that E.M. Shankar calls it the font of international terrorism. It spreads from here. Any place, most of the places, wherever the terror footprint comes, something or the other connects it back to our Western neighbor. And so that is where the issue lies. And it would not be incorrect for us to state that, in like having been in MO, we have a lot of out of area contingency planning. And I'm sure the people must be doing this out of area contingency planning and talking to their allies, because this is not a single country capability that you can do.
Yeah, I don't think India should also take the initiative.
You have to work with your partners, work out this out of area contingency, because it will be out of area contingency for the US also, and even if you're partnering, let us say Russia also, or even Israel, it's going to be an out of area contingency, and you've got to plan it, do tabletop exercises, because the locations are well known. It's not that we don't know the locations. Everyone knows these locations, how, where, when, and in what manner to target and neutralize these. Why some may say कि हाँ पहले किया हुआ है यूक्रेन वगैरह में, इस टाइप का प्रॉब्लम नहीं था जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर, वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं था.
The army, rift in the army.
There is rift in the army. There is a rift. In fact, in one of the someone had forwarded me an a rank from somebody who claims to be from Pakistan, a civilian, and he not a civilian, a Fauji soldier, rank and file soldier. He didn't give his rank, and he's ranting against Asif Munir and telling him to quit, resign and go.
Chhod do.
That you have destroyed us very badly, and his statement is हमारी इज्जत नहीं रही है अब, public अब हमारी इज्जत नहीं करती. What you have brought us to. But while what they may say is right, my personal reading is it has been a gradual descent in this of what they have been doing. Asif Munir is doing nothing different what Musharraf and his gang also did. Or earlier chiefs have also done.
Yeah, they all work tight.
Everybody had done the same thing. But what Asim Munir forgot that the environment has changed in the sense geostrategically at that time, people needed Pakistan. So Pakistan has always been an Airbnb for their piece of land. कि geostrategically important है कोई ना कोई
I like that word Airbnb. Airbnb, yeah.
For their piece of land कि भाई कोई ना कोई आ जाए. अब दिक्कत ये कोई आ नहीं रहा, वो Airbnb खाली पड़ा हुआ है, कोई आने को तैयार नहीं है. So अब like हिलरी क्लिंटन ने जो बोला हुआ था मुशर्रफ को कि भाई if you follow all these poisonous snakes in your backyard to bite your neighbor, it's not always the neighbor who's bitten. Today the neighbor is not being bitten, it is they themselves who are being bitten and they don't know what to do. अब तालिबान को तो इन्होंने पाला था, टीटीपी इन्होंने ही निकाला था. अब अफगानिस्तान में भी इनके जो आदमी है हक्कानी उसको साइडलाइन कर रहे हैं. सिराजुद्दीन हक्कानी is getting sidelined in Afghanistan. So as it is, they had lost control, what they thought of strategic depth, and the famous statement by Imran Khan that the shackles of slavery have been broken. Now they are telling, yes, shackles of slavery includes you. You are also making use of us.
Yeah.
So we are no longer your slaves. अब उनको समझ नहीं आ रहा है. And there is a slant which is coming in the Taliban that this hardline approach जो ये ले रहे हैं कि भाई जिस तरह से पुराने हदीद के लाइन से शरिया एंड ऑल विल नॉट वर्क फॉर देम, दे वांट टू शिफ्ट. So the hardliners who are there, Sirajuddin Haqqani and all this gang are slowly getting sidelined so that they can get back to the international forum, which they feel कि अगर ये हम कर लेंगे तो we'll get back and कुछ ना कुछ हमारा benefit हो जाए.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know what? In fact, that Haibatullah, he's the one who's doing it. He's supposed to be a cleric of Kandahar clan. He's the one who's not allowing all these chaps. He's pushing all these guys, sidelining.
And imagine Sirajuddin Haqqani was the main source for ISI.
Yeah.
अब वो हट रहा है, उसको निकाल रहे हैं धीरे धीरे. So Pakistan is facing a very, very, very major problem. उसके पंजाब में भी जो सदर्न पंजाब है, सराइकी कहते हैं, हम पंजाबी है नहीं, हम तो सराइकी. Punjabis have tried to rule us. So suddenly the Punjabi of Pakistan finds himself isolated and they have no answers. They have never faced this kind of situation ever in their life with no godfather to hold their hand. There's no godfather.
Na America hai, na China.
So
right. और economy तो सब जानते हैं, खत्म हो गया. And you know what's more is Balochistan is a different kind of a problem. It's more of an ethno-nationalistic approach, whereas TTP is more of a radical approach or a thing. They don't know how to deal with it. People are fed up, and now that a chief of army staff, ex-chief of army staff, who's well respected in Pakistan society, he's one of those guys who resigned. You know,
he didn't conduct a coup. He stepped down.
Preferred
to step down
and leave.
This was the Benazir Bhutto time era.
Okay. So, that man comes and talks. Things are tight. And that's why there's been a very quick reaction and that whole thing has been taken off. But that's okay. We know what he spoke.
The number of people would have already downloaded that video. So the damage has been done.
So, where do you see Pakistan standing and where does it go? What happens to Balochistan? Will the Pashtun problem flare up?
So, basically, I go back to a paper given to me by the DA of USA way back in 2004. It was written by Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters and it was called Redrawing the Borders of Middle East. And when they talk of Middle East, it was from Pakistan right to the Middle East. And it was published in the American Armed Forces Journal only in 2006. And I got the paper in 2004 beginning. The Shahji ambassador was not there. So the Shahji affairs and the DA were keen to discuss it. I read it, I spoke to them, I told them a lot of blood will flow. And remember First World War, a lot of blood flowed before the boundaries were drawn. Whether you like the Sykes-Picot line or whatever you want to do, whether you like the Durand line, don't like the Durand line, lot of blood has flowed when these borders have been drawn. When you want to change them, there will be a lot of bloodbath will be there. And you won't believe me. 2004, they said they have planned and they're ready for it. And this was a paper written by Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. He is part of the Iran-Contra affair. He was forced to put in his papers and he went and joined the Republicans. This is a bipartisan paper and written somewhere around 98, 99. It began as Pax Americana and then they said project for a new American century because Pax Americana became very imperialistic for their liking, like Pax Britannica, Pax Romana. So they called it Pax, a project for new American century. And it was written around 98, 99. I got it in 2004. When you see it, the way things are moving in this region, it is moving almost exactly as per that.
Yeah.
In that, KP is to go to Afghanistan. That is the Pashtun area. Baluchistan is going to get the southern Afghanistan and the Sistan Baluchistan of Iran and become an independent country by itself. Now there are two maps which are there. One is this map, which I am talking of circa 98, 99, or if people feel कि जब print हुआ था, so 2006 Armed Forces Journal. Gilgit-Baltistan area was supposed to go to Afghanistan. And Pakistan was left with the POJK, Punjab and Sindh. Another map was made in 2013, which has been discussed in the Congress and the Senate. In that, GB is supposed to come to us, which is circa 2030. The rest is the same. GB is supposed to merge with our Ladakh and come to India. Now, when you see the way things are moving, it is playing almost to the same thing. The first test bed was Iraq. Iraq was supposed to be three countries: a Shia Iraq, a Sunni Iraq, and a Kurd Iraq. Generally, it has come to being that way.
Yeah, the administration is
Administratively, it is that way. Kurd has become autonomous, and I don't think the Turks will like it. They are trying to attack the Syrian Defense Force, which is the Kurd force, with the Syrian National Army, which is Turkish-backed. But the Israelis and the Americans are supporting the SDF.
Yeah.
So, and they are losing. So the Syrian portion is going. The Iranian portion will also go at some point in time. The biggest chunk of land is being held, eastern Turkey, is the Kurd area. So when that comes, it'll take its own time, because that is what they had told me. It's not going to come in a hurry. This is the plan for the 21st century, and I'm talking in 2004.
Yeah.
Plan for the 21st century. That लंबा प्लानिंग है तोड़ने का. और लंबा प्लानिंग आप देखो, सीरिया का भी क्या कर दिया, सीरिया का लेबनान का आप देख लो क्या हो रहा है, पैलेस्टीनियंस का भी देख लो क्या हो रहा है. उसमें मेरे को पैलेस्टीन नहीं मिला. बाय द वे, there was no Palestine.
तभी तो ट्रम्प वहाँ रेवेरा बनना चाहिए.
There was no Palestine.
Yeah.
So they are moving, and it's a bipartisan thing. They are moving in that.
Yeah, it's going that way, and so we see a lot of problems.
Problem as far as, and my biggest concern, of course, internal security. Yes, I'm sanguine that our NIA and others will sort of छोटा मोटा कुछ तो होगा, but Nagpur style छोटा मोटा कुछ हो जाएगा. But you will find that they will be able to sort it out. Biggest concern remains the nuclear weapons.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. We're not going to open that can of worms at this point of time. So we've left that. Part of the neighborhood implosion is yeah,
that is there.
Okay, now that you said Nagpur kind of a thing, I want to clarify. You know, we discussed this in the afternoon. यार वो उसका कबर तो और कहीं है.
His cover. I am a tank man. Ahmednagar. The Ahmednagar cantonment is next to actually a village, Bhingar. It's called Bhingar Cant. Bhingar के अंदर is where he died, और उसका कबर वहाँ पे अभी भी है. वहाँ पे है. कोई जाता नहीं है, कुत्ते घूमते हैं, सब घूमते हैं, कचरा पड़ा रहता है. Nobody goes there. I don't know what is there in Khuldabad.
वो तो ऐसे बेवकूफी हो रहा.
खुलदाबाद में क्या है मेरे को नहीं पता. टोम वोम जो बोल दे, कबर उसकी वहां है. I have gone there. When I was doing my VIVOs way back in 79, हमें पता भी नहीं था. भिंगार के इतने चक्कर लगते थे हमारे, because that was the local market. Anything you wanted in an emergency, you ran across to Bhingar market and brought it. Everything was available there. बाकी बड़े चीज के लिए आपको अहमदनगर जाना पड़ता था. It was only the second time around when I came there around 81 that I got to know that there is something there. I went there. That chap told me, नहीं यहाँ इसकी कबर है.
You know, when I saw Aurangabad, I mean Aurangzeb's cover, and I stopped my car. But then I went there. कुत्ता घूम रहा था, तो कुत्ता सो रहा था उसके ऊपर. कोई ऐसे ही है. अब पता नहीं कहाँ नागपुर में एक छिड़ गया. I mean that's something beyond.
नागपुर is different. खुलदाबाद में बोल रहे हैं उसका डोम है. खुलदाबाद का क्या लेना देना? See, how was it in Bhingar? First he was fighting from Aurangabad where his wife died. बीवी का मकबरा is there. Then he came to attack Ahmednagar fort, and he had arrayed his forces around. Bhingar area and all that comes outside the Ahmednagar fort area. The wherever the moat and all is there, उसके बाहर पड़ता है. तो he would have been sitting there. वहीं मरा वो. वहीं कब्र खोद दिया उसका. So that is the background कि भाई हम है कुछ, बनाया कुछ, और निकला कुछ
और ये कहीं और कुछ हो रहा है. कुछ you know, is there a connection between what's happening elsewhere and this? Is something which we need
you have to be careful.
We have to be careful about this. Okay, now let's forget about this.
Then we go to the north.
Let's see what's happening in China.
Now, that is one place where my thing is, and I think that is my contention, that is where the trade negotiations are going on between Modi and Xi Jinping, Modi and Trump, India and US, which is going on. Because any collapse in China, which is happening, I'll just touch on certain issues, is going to have a geo-economic impact. The global economy is massive.
Huge.
All said and done, it still is a major global supply chain hub. So what Modi and Trump are working in is to break that supply chain hub. So why is this tariff deal? There are certain things which will come to us. There are certain things he's going to take it back to himself. Now you want to do the deal to see that you don't tax yourself out of each other, so that the supply chain stays. And they know that Europe is also facing a big problem, that is an extended neighborhood portion I'll touch at the end. Why the two of us are talking? Because the US, it has its internal problems like us. The situation is somewhat similar to us.
Maybe a little more in this
Maybe a little more. But what is happening in Europe is worse. What is happening in Europe is worse. And so they are looking, what can I bring here? What can I bring there? And then two major markets are available here only. The US has a market, we have a market. And how to readjust so that when China implodes, it will take a little more time. Then the global economy doesn't take a big hit. Why do I saying it is implode? We have already touched the two sessions. It's more of the same, no difference. After that, they came out with a plan how to increase the internal consumption. So one of their newspaper reports, sir, was mentioning also 30-point program. South China Morning Post came with 8-point program.
Yeah. Oh, they reduced it, which I did a program with P Gurus. You know, Sri Iyer ke saath I explained.
So वो है, but where's the money?
उसमें बजट ही नहीं है.
बजटेड ही नहीं है ये सारा कुछ. तो पैसे नहीं दोगे तो इंटरनल कंजम्पशन क्या होगा? So lo behold, today we get the answer that they have slashed all their loan rates, personal loan rates की हमसे पैसे ले लो और आप खरीदो. ये हालत हो रही है. तो पैसे ले लो, खरीद लिया. What people don't understand, the banks have not understood and their macroeconomists have not understood. People don't have the paying back power. How does he pay the EMI? How does he pay the EMI? So that is the condition of their economy today. With economy, they are managing to survive. At the macro level, they are facing
huge
major.
And you know what's more, there's no, like he said, there's no funding from the central government for all this. All the subsidies and all that in the 30-point program, which I explained day before yesterday, is to come from local governments who, as it is, don't have money. And people are already in the debt. So that I think is, and mind you, some of these reports which I've seen are internally from Guancha, which say that look, we are not very hopeful about this
So,
plan.
normal norm has always been like we also did when 2008 that economic problem hit the globe, the Lehman Brothers mortgage issue. Certain amount from your foreign exchange reserve, you put it into circulation to give it to the banks and other financial institutions to tide over so that people have money. There's no word. And he keeps boasting he has 3 trillion plus as a forex reserve. What is he going to do with that if he can't give it to his people in this time of need? And you're facing such big problem. What I see is a repeat of what Hu Jintao had done when they faced this problem of massive expenditure by the government. That is where a whole lot of, like we had discussed earlier, ghost cities and everything came up. He wants to do the same thing. Hu Jintao at least had money. This man doesn't have money because he's already wasted a whole lot of money on the BRI. And the first time, see, BRI has never been spoken about till date by them.
Yeah.
And in 2018, he had put it in his constitution that this is the BRI will be for the economic growth of China. The main thing that they will use for the economic growth of China, there's no word, nobody is talking of BRI these days.
Yeah, I have not seen a single word about BRI in any Chinese media for the with 2 sessions and all this. Zero. So except in Pakistan.
That tells you the macroeconomic problem he is facing. And the public is very angry with them. So there is factions within the CPC. In the Politburo Standing Committee, he was taking out people from the other side. Now people are targeting his Xi Jinping's base is Shanxi and Fujian. Shanxi is where he was born also. Then they came back, and when his dad was purged, he went back to Shanxi. Shanxi is where he has grown up. So his power base comes from Shanxi area because he looked after them, brought them all those who looked after him, not all those who went anti him. And Fujian is where he did a maximum of his service. So his even in the PLA, the CMC, he brought in his Fujian and Shanxi faction. Even this Politburo also and the Standing Committee, he has his Fujian and Shanxi people. They are all getting sidelined. One by one, they are getting
so his power base is being cut off.
And in CMC, like General had mentioned earlier, that Admiral Miao Hua, he has been his Shanxi man and he has been very close to him. He's gone. And Hevedong again from Fujian, he's gone. No, who's pulling the strings? Is it Zhang Yuxia? Because even in the Communist Party, you don't see a singular figure coming up and standing up against him.
Yeah, and not even in the Politburo.
Nobody. But
someone
both sides, the struggle is going on,
and someone is pulling the strings.
Now, which elder is pulling the string?
We don't know.
Is it Hu Jintao? I don't think so. I suspect it would be more Chiang Zemin's chief of staff. He has been very angry with Xi Jinping because Xi Jinping was supposed to be from the Shanghai faction, whom he destroyed. From the Shanghai faction. Then there is a retired general, Liu Yuan, who is Liu Shaoqi's son, ex-president 68-69, who was purged by Mao and killed in prison. He retired as a major general from the PLA and he was a political commissar. He has taken control of all the princelings who have been angry with him. But nobody has thrown his hat in the ring as yet.
Yeah. That we'll see, I suppose.
And the third major person who has been removed, who was Xi Jinping's man, I think from Shanxi, is the DG of their PAP. The head of their PAP, not seen. I thought Cao Leji is also gone, but I'm told
he's back. He's back. He made a public appearance after 3 days.
3 days. So he was my worry was he's the head of the NPC and he was not there in the 2 sessions.
Yeah. So
missing in the 2 sessions.
So
because China में पता नहीं लगता है, बंदा missing होता है तो मतलब गायब हो गया.
No, he might have been turned around also. In the
Could
3
be.
days, he might have been turned around.
Could be.
Okay.
So the figure who is behind the scenes, who's doing all this orchestration, is not yet visible. But problems remain. Because let us be clear, the Shanxi and the Fujian faction of with Xi Jinping is not going to lay down in a hurry. Because they will also have their factions within the PAP and within the PLA. Though in the PLA, only the Western Theatre commander is with him. But then there are a lot of group armies and the div commanders and all who are there. That is the, not the div commanders. Now, some divs are there, but mostly the combined armed brigade commanders. So you never know what is going to happen in China.
Yeah.
And they have been back channel talks with the Tibetan government in exile. There's been back channel talks going on. So people are also getting concerned. There was the latest, which I shared with the general, of the begging through Chinese characteristics.
Yeah.
Sitting in
I mean, people sitting in daytime, youngsters on the road begging with Chinese characteristics.
Asking for money, singing songs and asking for money. And sitting like beggars.
Yeah.
And with placards and boards in front asking for.
Kuch to de do, bhai, de do. I mean, this is something new.
Very new.
Very new.
Never seen in the Chinese.
It's a new phenomenon which we need to factor in when we talk of China.
I have been to Shanghai and, Sichuan, that is Chengdu, and to Beijing. In 2018, I spent about a week in both these places. I didn't see any beggar. I passed through a number of villages when I was touring outside. I didn't see any beggar. This is the first time ever I have seen it. That's why I shared it with the general. That look what I found.
Yeah.
Beggars sitting there and youth. And that leads you to that let it rot, Bailan. So if he's letting it rot, he's only going to beg and sit. So he's facing a problem. The downfall may not be immediate, but the descent has started. And you got to plan.
What we have to understand is nothing happens in a hurry in China. Look, let me put it in context. 1.5 years back, we did that slow collapse of China.
Yes.
Right? At that time, we spoke a lot about property and this and that, and it's going to go down, and economy is going to go down. People laughed at us. Yeah, yaar, pagal hai ye dono aake baat kar rahe. There's no collapse, no nothing, and no, it'll all recover. But 1.5 years down the line, you see what China was then, you see what China is today.
People around the globe are discussing this.
It's come down, right? And there's this Professor Michael Beckley who's spoken of peaking China and how it's going down and how it might end up as an aggressive nation for everyone around. And I'm trying to get him on our show. Let me see how successful I am towards the end of the month. So when you see these kind of theories coming out and see what's happening on ground, you call it a bubble, you call it a slow collapse, you call it jo bhi hai, but there's trouble.
Yes.
There's trouble.
One thing which you have touched on, EV, let me touch on that. A lot of reports I have read, most of the EV vehicles, even BYD within China, it's not selling. So what they are doing is, they are sending it to the dealer. They have a deal with the RTO. It's shown as sold. They give it a proper number plate, have the registration and the insurance done so that if somebody sees it, the documentation is complete. Ends up, there is a huge graveyard of EV vehicles going around big cities, all big cities outside, about 2-3 kilometers outside. They have a huge graveyard of EV vehicles. They're going there. They recycle things from there and use it into their plant to make money for subsidies, because like the general said, they are selling it below their cost price. So BYD was aggressively trying to tap the markets outside to be able to make some money. Now everybody is raising up the tariff rates for BYD, even EU, despite quite a lot of things of EU is made by the Chinese, some in China, quite a lot in Europe. The Chinese make it for the Europeans. But they have also put, I think, around 35% tariff rates. So the costs are going up from as far as the local vehicles are concerned. So the sales are not picking up. And that is why today people are talking of a BYD bubble.
Bubble. Yeah. They talk about BYD bubble like it happened with Evergrande. Right? We don't know. I mean, look, these are indications. We have to look at indications. And okay, all this is happening. What do we do?
So in this is where we have to calibrate how to remove our dependency from China. Let's be very clear. We have a huge amount of dependency on China. Like even for your pharmaceuticals, most of your API comes from China. So similarly for your electronics, there are a lot of things that come from China. So for electronics, they have started, chip making is going to start. Similarly for your API, you're giving in a lot to make the API as it used to be done till about 2004, 5, 6. Your APIs used to be made in India, but it went away to China. So Chinese try to capture our raw material and resources by cheapness. They sell it cheap. So our people, businessmen being what they are, they try to look at profits and buy it from them. Little realizing that dependency will harm you in the longer run. So now when we know that yes, a decline has started, yes, you are having discussions with Trump on these tariffs, you should look at what you can poach away from China, your dependency away, and what supply chain hubs. You should also see what you can poach away from Europe. Now, I find a lot of statements being made that the Chinese are not giving X material like the tunnel boring machine or something else. Fine. We are masters in TOT.
Let's do it.
Right? We are masters in TOT. There is no shortcut to that. Just tell them he's not giving it, no problem. Give us the design, we'll
do it. And and not only this, what you said is right. There are opportunities also arriving.
Yes.
Today I read, and that too from South China Morning Post. You open South China Morning Post, it will be there. It says, will India and Philippines get together? And nickel ores are there in Philippines. They want to get away from China, and they're already talking to India. You get the story going. So they're giving you a source. You make nickel, and nickel is used for many things in manufacturing. So we have to make use of these opportunities, and these opportunities will come. And this is the time when we need to step up to the whole story.
For that, I have always been talking in various platforms. Our business houses, the groups that we have like FICCI, CCI, SOCHAN, they have to be up and about. You can't keep crying and looking at the government that the government has not done this. Why aren't you approaching the government to tell them that what would you like them to do to be able to make use of this opportunity? Government ki taraf kyun dekh rahe ho? If you're feeling that there are certain policies which are too archaic, you are the best bet.
You go to the government and say, look, let's change it.
Why are you waiting budget to budget? And budget to budget is more on tax, capital tax, this tax, that tax, other tax. Thank you. No, I'm looking at policies. You are the best person on the ground. Batao, ye policy badalna hai. Badal jayenge and you will be able to do it faster.
I go with it completely. I think we need to do that. I think we also need to be very clear militarily as to how to handle the situation.
Yes, because the Chinese collapse is going to be worse than Pakistan's collapse because he hits out.
Yeah, he'll hit out, and that's the problem. Where he'll hit out, we don't know. Will there be turmoil in Tibet as a result of this? We don't know, because every time there's a problem in China, Tibet has raised its flag of independence. That's history. Will that repeat itself? If that happens, what do we do? What happens in the Indian Ocean region? What happens in a place like Gwadar, where China and Pakistan have a lot of stakes together?
And China is losing its land link to Gwadar. So they were looking at the digital Silk Route. I wonder how much the digital Silk Road will work today.
So there are issues which I thought, we'll put it across, both of us, face to face. In fact, today when we were coming here, we were talking about all this. I said, okay, let's talk about all this in the evening today. I thought we'll put it across. Okay.
Now we come to the East. The latest joker in the pack. He suddenly finds himself with no support. And Tulsi Gabbard comes and openly says that the previous regime brought in a regime of terrorists. Now, where does Mullah Yusuf turn to? He doesn't know. Then he sees that in Chin, the two groups that were there brought together by the chief minister of Mizoram and the MP from Mizoram telling them after this that why don't you join with us?
So that
merge with India.
That's a major reshuffle which is happening. Yeah, हम सब बोलते थे कि उनका क्या हमारे ऊपर असर होगा. ये देखो हमारा उनके
क्या ऊपर
असर कर रहे हैं.
And just imagine if Chin and along with Sagaing province, which borders are Nagaland, Manipur, Nagaland, and goes right up to South Arunachal, the Nagas are there. The moment something like this goes on, and even if they don't start happening, the tensions in the northeast go down.
Not only tensions, your influence goes across.
And the tensions go down. And suddenly you get a very big buffer between Yunnan and yourself.
Yes, and you also start eroding the Chinese influence.
And the Bangladeshis will not like it one bit. Right. And Chinese are not liking it, though Kyakpu port has not been hit per se. But
it's a matter of time then.
Tatmadaw military base there has been hit. And when that happens, that means the approach, and that military base is within the area which is controlled by the Chinese. So the Chinese are going to be worried.
Yes.
What happens to the canal, the pipeline that goes through, and the road which is theirs, which goes through that area. So that becomes a major concern for them. And Bangladesh today, actually, you suddenly find is going suddenly quiet.
Yeah, in fact, say a month back, 2 weeks back, a lot of heat from Bangladesh, a lot of ill feelings and all that. Suddenly, in the newspapers and media, suddenly last week I started seeing, why shouldn't India and Bangladesh get together?
Yep.
We have many links, all that, as op-eds and opinion pieces.
Because the attempt to overthrow the current chief by the QMG has failed.
There's no doubt about it.
And the RNAW had a big role to play. He is in house arrest and he's not allowed to go out. Yes, at the moment they are talking to the other officers who are with him. A few of the generals, I'm told, have been turned around. But when you turn around people like this, can you trust them? Because once he was there, he has come here, he can go there.
Yeah, go back.
And but the mastermind having been arrested, who was very close to the Jamaat advisor of Yunus. So suddenly he finds the Americans are not recognizing him. Nobody in Europe has recognized him. 200 million was sent by whom? Canada. Canada sent him 200 million. 200 million, the manner in which Yunus has been functioning, whatever I could analyze and assess, he was the money launderer for the West. So this 200 million also may be for money laundering. So
that's in any case, it's a small pittance.
It's a pittance. But that itself people will take away. Yeah. And he would also use it to feather his nest.
Yeah, he would have done long back.
So Paris, I am saying for the people to understand that the outskirts of Paris are full of Islamic neighborhoods are available out there.
Where he can go and
stay there. After he was there, before he came here, he would like to go back.
And he won't get entry back into US.
Yeah. So he can't go. His daughter is already under.
And US aid bhi khatam ho gaya.
Sab
khatam ho gaya. So, so we're going to have these three things which we have to take care of.
So though the advisor of the personal secretary of Sheikh Hasina is saying that she'll get back. Okay, even if she gets back, it's not going to stabilize in a hurry.
Yeah, it's not going to stabilize in a hurry. So
the backlash from there will be here. It will come in via your Bengal. It can come in via Assam also.
Assam and Tripura
also. So these are the places from where they will like to create, and ISI has some hold there. They would like to create. If they can't do from the West, they would like to do from the East. So the internal problems are going to be a challenge for us.
Yeah. So we've outlined three problems to you. One in Pakistan, one in China, and one in Bangladesh. Just remember, all this is happening when Gaza has restarted. when Houthis are being attacked by USA, and the Trump peace talks with Putin are not going anywhere in a hurry. Okay, and that
And
war
I
is-
may add, latest today, one of the Iranian SIGINT ship has been sunk by the Americans in the Red Sea.
so if all this is happening, we are lucky so far that nothing has touched our shores. Our thing should be as to how we keep it that way, how we look into the future, anticipate events, and act accordingly. Look, many things which we have said today might not happen.
But what we have to remember is you are being given an opportunity geopolitically, geostrategically, and geoeconomically
Economically, to which will
to build your future.
future,
This is the window you have,
You
max 15, 20 years, not more than that.
right? And many of you might say, "Oh yeah, these two old chaps are shooting off in the dark, and air हवा में बात कर रहे हैं." Maybe, we might be 100% wrong, but what we are not wrong about is the opportunity.
Yes.
The opportunity for India comes with the opportunity. There's also a slight bit of a danger, which
You have your challenges and threats
Threats,
always coming
always.
because we have a weakness. Never forget that.
Yeah,
The first step to be able to strengthen yourself is to accept that you have a weakness.
weakness.
If you
Okay.
accept it, you'll
Then,
be able to
then
correct
the rest of the things will fall in place. Because a lot of social issues which are happening, which can be turned against us, and that's where we are. Anything more you want to add?
Basically, that I like we have been saying and I've been saying in many talks, this is an opportunity a country gets once in about, जैसे वो महाकुंभ होता ना, once in 100, 200 years. You're not going to get this opportunity again. You grab this opportunity despite all the challenges and threats that you have, get out of it. This opportunity will sail you for 100, 200 years. Otherwise, you will be servile for the next 100, 200 years.
So that's what we had to put across to you. I'm not going to take questions today because let me be honest with you. We are just sitting next to each other.
We were just talking
we
in
were
the flight
talking-
and in the vehicle. And we
and
decided
okay, we'll
we
go
can
live.
talk.
And what's more important is we're just putting this live through a laptop. I don't have any way to know what your questions are. I can't even see the questions from this distance. And you would have a lot of questions on what we have spoken.
तो open house में करें.
Open house mein karenge. So open house this Sunday. All your questions, you put it across back, and we'll talk of all this as a follow-up of this. Till then, thank you. Good evening. Have a great day, and Jai Hind.
Jai Bharat.
Thank you. Let me put it off because I have to come forward to put the whole thing off.